It's the month of October, and that usually means spooky or horror-themed videos. So I figured, why not go big, go with a horror-themed action figure line, and that is, of course, the Mcfarlane Toys DC Multiverse 7-inch Blackest Night figures. I'm doing a set of 4 standard figure reviews, which is what you can see on my table here, and a 5th review, which will be the Collect and Connect version of Atrocitus. We'll give you 1 video per character. We're going to do a full breakdown review of each of these characters, starting with Blackest Night Batman, going to Deathstorm, then to Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, and finishing up the standard figures with Blackest Night Superman. And then we're going to do the special Collect and Connect version of Atrocitus. I hope you enjoy the video to come. Stay tuned, guys, if you dare. Hey YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel web for all things geeky and cool, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to a horror-themed action figure review based upon the DC Multiverse 7-inch Mcfarlane Toys Blackest Night figures. I'm looking at figure number 3 here in the series. This, of course, is Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. Now, if you're not familiar, Kyle Rayner Green Lantern was basically the Green Lantern in the 90s. This was my Green Lantern, and I have basically a lot of value baked into this figure because of my love of Kyle Rayner. So this video may be a bit biased towards this character. So if you don't really know about Kyle Rayner, he was part of a story called Blackest Night, which was based on this right here. This event of Blackest Night happened in 2009-2010, written by Jeff Johns, the phenomenal Jeff Johns, and drawn by Ivan Reis. This story took place in about a year's storyline, again 2009-2010, ran for 7 issues, which is what this book is right here, and really touched base on parts of all DC Comics for that particular year. Now, Kyle was in that storyline, but he didn't have a huge role, which is kind of weird, but he showed up in this particular action figure, which caught me by surprise. I would have thought it would have been Hal Jordan. So let's take a look here at what Kyle looks like in the storyline. That's him right there. And you may notice the suit doesn't look kind of what like this figure is right here, which we'll really talk about that momentarily because there's a lot to really digest with this figure. And there's a lot of points that are both good and bad with this figure. So as I mentioned before, this was a complete storyline for 2009-2010. It was kicked off really by this guy right here. This is a Funko Pop of the character known as Black Hand. He's a C-tier level villain. He is a Green Lantern villain, but he basically started the whole kind of Blackest Night event. Think of like The Walking Dead done in comics, or let's say Night of the Living Dead, where basically zombies are risen from the grave, both good guys and bad guys. They basically have this black power ring on that they would basically kill people by ripping their hearts out and basically getting their power to summon up a galactic level threat. That is basically the nuts and bolts of Blackest Night. I highly recommend reading it. If you've never read that story before, I highly recommend it. You'll never read a better story ever in comics. I hope you do like this video. Click that like button and definitely click the subscribe button. It will help us get across the YouTube algorithm, to get this video into more people's hands. And let's really dive into now Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's really focus, let's hit home on Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. Let's really dive into the paint and articulation in this breakdown segment. First thing, let's really focus on that head sculpt, which to me is the part that's probably the weakest part of this figure. I don't like that head sculpt. And I think what's throwing me is the smirk. As far as the attention to detail, the styling and the deco looks good. I mean, I like the hair, I like the way the mask looks, I like the eyes. It's that smirk, it's the face right there that I don't know what it is. It just screams wrong to me. It doesn't look right. He shouldn't have that goofy looking smirk. As far as the rest of the outfit, you may or may not notice, of course, it has that sort of lime green color. The color to me doesn't look right. It's too bright green. I've mentioned before on social media, I've mentioned before in other videos, the color green here just is the wrong color green. It's too bright. They needed to have more of a darker green for it to make it look right. The Green Lantern symbol, though, that looks correct. It's more of like his 52 or rebirth symbol. That looks new. That looks correct. That is right. I have no problem with that. But what you may not notice, if you look at some of the attention to the detail here on the bodysuit, he has sort of this dimpled look effect to the suit. It doesn't look right. He's supposed to have a skin-tight leotard, a skin-tight suit. You shouldn't have these ridges or these bumps on the suit. And basically think of it as like a basketball. It's dimpled. So there's texture to the suit. I get what McFarlane Studios and McFarlane Toys is trying to do. I understand your approach. It just feels wrong wrong to me. They should not have made it like that. It should have been a skin-tight suit. Green Lanterns don't have sort of these dimples on suits, and they don't wear body armor. They don't need to. They have the most powerful weapon in the universe, and they make a normal outfit, a normal skin-tight uniform. It doesn't look like this to me. That's wrong. So both the head sculpt to me personally is wrong, that stupid grin, and the suit as far as the detail, the texture is off. All the parts of the suit look good. They look good to me. White gloves, black bodysuit as far as the bottom portion of the figure, and the green boots itself look good. I like that. If you swing into the back, again, green suit, black deco with it kind of halfway through the figure. It does look good. I'll take some up-close B-roll shots so you can see what it looks like. Now let's really focus on the attention to the articulation. So going back to the head sculpt, the head will spin 360, and we have a little bit of up and down movement, which is good. The arms can go up to a full T here, and you can spin them 360 with no hindrance. It's weird how they have this joint. I'll spin it to the back of the figure. If you notice here, there's this joint, this butterfly joint. I've seen it before in other figures. It just looks weird because you have this gap in the shoulder, top of the shoulder. You can see it right there. It doesn't hide it really, really well. You see this kind of loose gap between it. It doesn't basically push all the parts together right, in my personal opinion. I think that was kind of a misstep. I think Mcfarlane could have re-engineered this, or engineered rather, a little bit better, a little cleaner, in my personal opinion. That's just me nitpicking, but that's my personal opinion. Let's really focus now on the arms itself. He does have a double jointed arm. You can see the pins right there. It's not pinless. He does have 360 on the hand, and it does not go up and down. It was just a straight spin. Looks like a straight spin on both hands, it looks like. Let's take a look at this hand. Nope, there is articulation on this hand. It does have that weird, just like Deathstorm, it's this weird hinge where you can swing it up and down. You can't go this way with it. It's like this. The hinge works this way. It's really, really weird. It's a really weird hinge. It does spin 360 though, but you have that weird hinging joint where you see me doing it with the hand. Very, very odd. I didn't talk about it for Deathstorm when I should have. He does have an ab crunch, it looks like here. Let's really focus on an ab crunch. Goes back really far, goes forward really far. Good tension of motion, good tension detail. He does spin 360. I didn't really showcase that on Deathstorm, but he does do spin 360. Stuff starts going weird when you start moving the body in different poses. You'll see this body paint here, right here, this green here, and the green from here. Things don't line up really well when you start putting them into really different poses. You might have the offset of color, so be aware of that if you're trying to pose them in certain ways. Take them off the figure stand here. It does come, of course, with a figure stand. We've talked about this before, which we'll talk more about it shortly. As far as the bottom of the figure itself, he can get a good kick. Good range of motion here. The leg can spin 360 at the quad. Just be careful you don't spin it off the ball joint. He does have a double jointed knee right there. You can see the double jointed knee. He can go really, really far back. He can even almost kick himself in the back. Most of the Mcfarlane toys we've been seeing, I think they do have 22 points of articulation, do have this range of motion here. What was really weird about the range of motion when I was looking at this figure off camera is, of course, there's no articulation in the boot here, but you do have a weird hinge at the foot. Right here, you can hinge really far back, really far forward, and you do have a boot cut. So you do have a lot of attention to detail when it comes to the articulation with this figure. I do like that there is lots of articulation. Don't get me wrong, guys. I do think there's loads of articulation with this figure. I think Mcfarlane did a great job with the range of motion. It just, to me personally speaking, that awful head sculpt, which they did kind of fix in the gold label version of Kyle Rayner, which we'll talk about that in another video, and compare it to this figure, and the green bodysuit with the weird texture, that basketball texture. Just imagine a basketball. That's what it feels like to me. It's this weird texture. I can't explain it. It is on the Collect and Connect, which we'll talk about that momentarily. And that being said, let's now focus on the accessories of Kyle Rayner here. Of course, we always talk about the figure stand. I talk about it in every single video from Mcfarlane Toys. I wish it would have 2 points of attachment here. It's much better and it's much solid connection when you can put both feet in, not just 1 foot. It makes it really hard. It usually falls down even with a figure stand. Most of the time these figures do fall down. My Deathstorm figure has tons of problems standing. And maybe the feet might be a little loose, but I wish it would have had 2 points to plug into. It's just something that Mcfarlane should do going forward. Of course, I always have the tech spec card. It's a shot kind of that came out of one of the stories of Blackest Night. It wasn't the normal book. I think it was the Green Lantern book of it. That's why they lifted this particular piece of art. It is a legit picture from Blackest Night. Here's the read up of the card. I'll get some up close shots of the B-roll so you can read about it. During Blackest Night, Kyle, I believe, wasn't even on Earth for a good chunk of the book. He was in Oa defending Oa, which is of course the big planet of the Green Lanterns. That's where their home base is, and he was really not on Earth during this time frame. His accessories does come with, of course, the Atrocious Collect and Connect portion. This is the body portion of Atrocitus. The only thing we have is one figure left to put the full Atrocitus figure together. And as I mentioned before, kind of earlier in the video, even Atrocitus has this textured look to it, that basketball dimpled appeal. Again, I don't understand why they went that direction. It feels weird to me. He's going to be a nice bulky figure. This thing is really packed with a lot of weight, so he's going to be a nice bulky figure. The art here, as far as the paint goes, it looks really, really good. Good style, good attention to detail. We'll talk more about that when we put Atrocitus together. As far as that, Kyle has two other construct items. One, he has a power battery done as kind of a construct. It's done in, again, that lime green color. I'll get a shot of him holding this power battery, but again, I talked about it before with the Deathstorm video. There's no articulation in this handle. I don't know why. It does look like his power battery. His power battery does look like this. It's not the normal shape and size of a standard power battery. It looks completely different. That's Kyle's power battery. Here's what Kyle looks like holding the power battery. Again, looks pretty cool. He does have that cool articulation point, so he does have a lot of range of motion where you can spin his hand around to get pretty good poses. I do like that. It does look good in his hand, but again, that lime green color still feels really weird to me. Again, I guess they're trying to match either the color of his suit or they're trying to make a construct version of the power battery. That's the only thing I could possibly think of. And the reason why I state that is, if I take this out of his hand real quick, is his second item is sort of this Buster sword that you would see out of like Final Fantasy VII. It's this huge, massive, honking sword. So this is the green color, which is a construct, and you get the power battery here. I can only assume this is a power battery construct. That is what I think Mcfarlane Toys was going for. I can only make that as assumption. It is a honking, big sword. He does hold it. I'll get again an up-close shot of him holding the sword here. It is the big green plastic, as I mentioned before. And here's a nice shot of him with the sword. Again, it's about as big as him. It's a massive, massive sword. Another reason why he probably needs to have that figure stand, which he's not on right now, so that's why he's a little bit top heavy. There we go. I think I got it. There we go. There's a good shot of him holding the sword right there. But again, big construct sword. I see what they're going for. Huge, cool looking sword. Again, Kyle is an artist. He has a lot of precision when it comes to his constructs. He has basically a fantasy-driven mind. That's why he can make really cool constructs. And this, of course, is not just a normal sword. It's a huge Final Fantasy sword, which I do love everything about this. Let's really focus on Kyle Rayner here and wrap up this video in final thoughts. His final thoughts on the Blackest Night Mcfarlane Toys figure number 3, Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. Kyle is my Green Lantern, and I have a lot of bias going into this video. I wanted to love this figure, but because the goofy face sculpt they have here, which looks completely wrong, the bright colored green suit, and the dimpled costume, this looks all wrong to me. It should have been a darker green suit and take away that goofy smirk. Again, the gold label version, which was a Target exclusive, which we'll talk about in another video, not right now, but another video, really fixed that particular problem, but he still had the dimpled suit, but he had his original costume. This one looks good, but it's not great. Again, they fall short on the coloring scheme, the goofy grin, the dimpled suit. It should be a skin-tight leotard. It's not body armor, and it's not textured. And that's what they have here. Again, stay tuned for this guy right here, the Collect and Connect. And I do hope you like this video review, again, of Kyle Rayner figure number 3. Stay tuned for figure number 4, which is Blackest Night Superman. Hope you do like it. Click that like button bottom page. Click that all-important subscribe button, picture my face. When you subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of latest videos. And of course, last but not least, your winners over here to watch more content. Take care, guys. See you next video. And bye-bye.